All right. Hello and welcome, Just a Family. I am your host, Melissa Krechler. Today's episode is all about animal healing, animal communication, and just how powerful animals are in our day-to-day, everyday lives. So today, our sponsor is the Butterfly Lotus Company, which just happens to be my spiritual teaching business. Go and check that out in the link. www.theblc.ca. Today's guest host is none other than Linda Roberts, who is nicely known as the Pet Whisperer. So I'm going to hand that off to you to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you for having me, Melissa. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, thank you. So I'm excited to talk about animals and animal communication because it's just been a huge part of my life and along my spiritual journey as well. You know, I believe animals have souls and animals are our guides, as well as humans being our guides and our teachers. And there's so much we can learn from the animals, but sometimes things get lost in translation, being that they can't communicate verbally, but they can communicate telepathically. And so I was really intrigued by this concept when I was having an issue with my dear heart horse about 12 years ago. And that's how I got started in learning how to do animal communication. I believe we're all born with this ability. And so I think that as we are supported in that endeavor, we can continue um, to grow within that space of cultivating a communication, a telepathic communication with all living things, with other humans, with animals, and with people, of course. So I got started being a professional animal communicator about 12 years ago. And I've helped thousands of people to better understand their animals and to understand their unique relationships, their soul agreements, their soul contracts that they have with their animals, and having other past life scenarios unfold in this lifetime with some of the same souls that are incarnated in our lives, some being animals and some being human together. So I've got two grown children, but I've got two dogs, two 12-year-old Shelties in my home. They're right here by my feet. I've got two cats that I rescued, and I've got one horse. My heart horse, he just passed away 2 months ago. He was struggling with some health issues, and I was able and blessed to find a new horse. And so I've had her for a month now, and I'm just enjoying getting to know her and strengthening that strong connection that I felt the moment I saw her.
Now, for anybody watching the show, please, of course, like, follow, share, engage. We are up with the chat here. So, one of the things I wanted to mention is whether you're spiritual or whether you're not spiritual, this episode isn't specifically about spirituality, because if you have an animal or you've seen anybody with animals, there are emotional support animals, there are service animals. I know in my own situation, and this has been the majority of my life, where depending on the animal, if I'm upset or if I'm crying or if I'm having a really hard day, the first person or individual to come to me actually ends up being my cat. They'll come to me and snuggle up and purr and just be there for me. And I think animals are underrated in the power that they hold to help us heal.
Well, I guess it depends on what circles you are around. But yeah, in the circles that I'm in, yeah, everyone goes to their animals. We lean in, we feel it, we know it, we know that support, that unconditional love that they have for us. So definitely, definitely, they're here to support us.
Yeah, it truly is unconditional love. They don't care what you look like, they don't care what you wear, they don't care how you act. As long as you love them and treat them with respect, they're there. There's no question. Yeah, okay, they've got attitude. I have 5 cats and a dog. We put our other dog down, coming up on 2 years, and the attitude, yes, absolutely, my animals have attitude, and you can tell their unique personalities. They are like humans in that they do have unique personalities. Some of them are fun, some of them are shy. So I know one of my cats is antisocial, does not want anything to do with you unless you have food. He just doesn't care, but at the same time he likes loving his way, and that's okay. But again, emotional support animals, service animals. My daughter is diabetic, she's type 1 diabetic, and we've thought about getting her own service animal to alert her if she goes low or alert her if she goes high. But animals are even lifesavers. You think about, what is it, fire departments, I was talking to a lady who, or I was watching a show, and there was a lady who had search and rescue, and she had dogs that did search and rescue, dogs or animals that do drug detection or fire detection. There's so many aspects and so many jobs that dogs actually, or animals in general, bring to our sphere. And being able to understand what they need, not just how we need them, but what they need in return, is key. There's dogs that have behavioral issues, there's dogs that have medical issues, and we try to treat them and we try to do the best that we can. Sometimes it is just emotional. And that's where somebody like you would come in, right? What does my animal need?
Yeah, and that's like the number one question I get asked all the time is, how can I make my animal happy? Or what do they need? What more do they need? I feel animals have a love language just like we do, and there are categories of a love language that they have, and maybe your love language is to have them cuddle on your lap, but their love language is food. And if those aren't synchronized, then you're going to have a disconnect, and that's when I come in and try to educate both the animal and yourself on how can we compromise, how can we meet in the middle here to help to have harmony in the home. That's always my goal, is having harmony in my home and inviting that in other people's homes as well. There have been cases where I've got a current case right now. It's an elderly dog. She's on the borderline of age 15, and she's a black lab, which is a great age to be at, but she's battling a horrible cancer right now. And so her human checks in with me every week to see how the pain management is being addressed for her, because they are working with a holistic vet and they are working with a traditional vet as well. And they're helping with the pain management. And I'm the voice for the dog. And I can tell them, well, on Wednesday, she wasn't feeling that great, but, then you gave her whatever the steroid was. She's in palliative care at this point. So they're doing whatever they can to keep her comfortable, but then on the next day, she said she was okay with whatever was administered to her to help her with her pain and help her to exit gracefully as best as she can.
I like how there's a lot of people in the world right now who consider their pets their family, right? My pets are part of my family. They're like my children. While they aren't my children, they're like my children. And it's interesting how attached emotionally we get to those animals, and how losing them or trying to make sure that their health is good and that their life is good, there is a question of the quality of life for an animal when they get to that point. So I'm glad that they're doing everything that they can to facilitate that for their dog. So what do you think the biggest thing for the animal communication would be for people who want to know more about their pet?
What do you mean? What are some of the benefits?
Like what's not necessarily benefits. How do people go about communicating with their animal? What are the go-to steps that they should be taking to create that connection to their animal, for the animal, not necessarily for themselves, but for the animal?
Oh, yes, definitely. um, I'd say getting to know them, a bonding time. Whenever someone new in your life comes into your world, you take some time and effort and energy to get to know them, not to have them behave the way that you want them to, but to understand okay, they have these preferences and I have these preferences. How can we make this work? But being a witness and observing, I think, is number one. Also, quieting the mind. I teach animal communication, and so I do teach people to quiet the mind and be aware of what messages or images or feelings or sensations are coming through in your energy field. The animal doesn't have to be physically present in order for you to do this. 99% of my clients I've never physically seen. I do all of this virtually because it's that telepathic energy connection that we have that helps me to connect with the animals. And everybody is born with this ability. So everybody can do it. It's just a matter of where you want to put your energy. Just like everybody can do math, right? Everyone can speak a foreign language. It's whether you choose to do that or not, and where you're going to put your energy and where you're going to put your effort in. So that's probably the first thing I would say would be to be observant, to witness, to be present, to be physically and emotionally present with your animal.
I love that. You building a relationship with a new pet is like getting into a relationship. It's like getting into a romantic relationship. You're going to want to learn who that person is, what they like, what they enjoy, what they don't like, what they don't need, what they do need, how that relationship is going to work in your life. But you also don't want to change them. So a lot of people will take their animals to trainers. Your animal is going to have their own, and this is to all the audience, your animal is going to have their own needs, their own activities that they need to do. You've got an animal, let's say dogs, for instance. Some dogs are more hyper than others. That's because that's their breed. That's the way that they're built. That's their energy field. I have a Rottweiler. Everybody's like, oh, they're scary and they're, horrible. My Rottweiler is one of the sweetest animals as long as I'm around. When I'm not home, he's not very sweet. But at the same time, he's a herd dog. Rottweilers were originally bred as herd animals. So when I had puppies, we had puppies at one point, and I remember I was standing outside and the puppies are literally biting my ankles, ankle biters at that time, and they're fighting, but they're biting my ankles. And he comes running across the yard up the steps and he starts barking at them and nudging them away from my feet because I'm saying ow, because they're biting my ankles. And at that point, it made me really realize that they have jobs that they want to do as well. Animals they want to please their people. They want to feel comforted. They want to feel loved. They want to feel important. It's just like you and I. And I think that when we take into consideration the personality of the animal and the needs of the animal, we're truly creating a relationship that's built not on changing who they are and what they need to suit our needs, but incorporating what they need into that relationship. You're not going to go into a romantic relationship and say, you have to change everything about yourself to suit my needs. That's not how an animal human relationship should work.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. And animals get such a bad rap from when they're not behaving, when they're not aligned and they're aggressive, whether that's out of fear, whether that's out of self-preservation, whether that's just they're rude or they don't like their humans or whatever the situation may be. It's not always the dog's fault. And I think I want to mention how many breeds have been persecuted because of the owners, because of lack of training, lack of communication, lack of people getting to understand what's making the dog act that way. It's like and again, it goes back to being human. As a human, if I'm acting like a dick to you, there's probably a reason, whether it's my reason or your reason, you don't know, but there's a reason behind it. Animals are just the same, fight or flight mode, right?
They all have their preferences. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to share one of my cases that I had several years ago was this woman who lived alone in an apartment. She had two cats, so the cats were middle aged, and she'd been there for a while. Well, she started to have a fiance who came over, and he started to live in the same apartment. So when he moved in, he was okay with the cats, but wasn't really a fan. Well, the cats used to sleep in her bed. As soon as he moved in, he asked that the cats not sleep in the bedroom at all. And so she honored that, and so she banned the cats from the bedroom. Well, guess what happened? The cats were not pleased about that at all. That was one of their snuggle times. That was one of their comfort spots, one of their favorite spots in the home. And so they started to be disruptive. They started to urinate on her clothes. It was on her stuff. They were letting her know quite clearly they were urinating on the bed. They were urinating on her clothes. They were urinating wherever she sat on the couch. It was all of her spaces. And they were letting her know this isn't cool. This is not really what we want. And we don't like that we were ousted without being consulted or asked. And we don't really think this guy is the best for you either. So she had to deal with that information that came through during a communication reading. And there were other things that evolved. This went on for about 2 to 3 years. This scenario where she would have the cats act up all of a sudden, and it didn't set well with anybody involved. So being able to be the voice of reason or the voice of the animals, I think, is one of my favorite things about doing this. Is I get to let people know how they're treating other souls, how that relationship does affect you, and how we're all connected. What goes around comes around.
Absolutely. So as my cat is sleeping on in front of my pillow, I made my bed, and of course they're always at my pillow, so I have to make the bed kind of like around where they're sleeping. They're always in here one way or another. So
Yeah.
the dog I don't allow to sleep in the bed, but of course he's over 100 pounds, and I'm 5'9", and I don't have to bend to pet him. So he would take over half my bed if I let him. But he, like, for my own animal, he has separation anxiety, big time separation anxiety. If I'm upstairs and he's downstairs, he is not happy. He'll whine at the bottom of the stairs. Unfortunately, we're dealing with some arthritis now in him. He is 11, so he's getting a lot older and having a lot of issues. We just started, and my own opinion, I tried it to see what it would work. We started putting him on CBD oil to help with inflammation and the pain of the arthritis. So he's doing a lot better now. We switched my
Good.
daughter's room, so now she's downstairs. So he's not crying to be upstairs with me anymore
Oh,
because she's downstairs at night. So we don't
good.
have to worry about the upstairs. Yeah, they don't like change either. You think about kids, right? We always say our animals are our children. How well do our children handle change, right? You have a new, like that situation that you were telling us about. You have a new boyfriend and you have a child, and your child meets the boyfriend. If your child doesn't like the boyfriend, they're going to act out big time, right?
Right.
And it's interesting to correlate those two together. So, talking about animals in a spiritual sense, there are obviously the viewers of the show range. So, there's going to be people who think we're absolutely crazy for communicating with animals. There's people who are going to, enjoy it, and that's okay. Whether you like it, whether you agree, whether you disagree, we're all about inclusivity. There isn't a belief that you can believe whatever you want, we can believe whatever we want. We're not saying you're wrong if you don't believe in it, and please don't say that we're wrong if we believe in it. So I know that there is a level of communication. For me, in my house, it's more of an understanding rather than a communication. It's an understanding of, maybe they're feeling this way, or this is what's going on, or this is how we can help. it's a conversation my family and I have about our animals, just checking in. What do they need? Are they acting out? Are they doing good? You know, I'm constantly having to tell my oldest daughter to leave the youngest cat alone because he really doesn't like to cuddle at all. So it's definitely different to think about it in a, they have needs themselves, right? And not a lot of people will think about it in that context. But talking about spirituality, which is where I was going with this, what do you think about animal symbolism? So I did post a link for anybody watching. I posted a link in the comments from spiritanimal.info. And if you're looking for meanings of certain animals, whether they are spirit or totem animals, messengers, whether you see them in nature or you're drawn to them, there is that info there. I have a book that I reference whenever I need to. I'm sure I'm sure Linda references her own as well. Animals have meanings, and I've always been fascinated when I see an animal. I see squirrels all the time while I'm doing my shows. They'll be running across my deck. I have a phoenix tattoo. My son and I just got matching phoenix tattoos on behind our ears, which has symbolism for us, right? So not only animal communication in a physical sense or a metaphysical sense, but also animal communication in a spiritual sense. What do those animals mean? What are they bringing to you? What message do they have for you about your life? Now, do you deal with that at all?
Yeah, I do. I am a contemporary shaman, so I do believe in working with the spirits and all sorts of spirits and gods and goddesses and animal totems and all of that. So yes, I do. Um, and I do feel that spirit animals, those who come to us for our entire lifetimes, are similar to our guardian angels, but sometimes they're in animal form. And that's not to say we don't also have guardian angels, but we also have spirits in animal form that help us and support us through our life's journey. Sometimes they're with us for our whole lifetime. Sometimes they're with us for certain stages in our lives. For example, I've done a meditation to find out, well, who some of my animal totems are. And it changed a little bit when I was going through a difficult divorce. There was this um, the animal was a rooster, and all of a sudden I started to buy rooster decor in my home. I didn't know why, but I was drawn to it like a magnet. And I'm not one with a strong affinity towards birds, and I thought, well, this is odd, but I was buying rooster decor. And then I did a meditation and I saw a rooster kind of sitting here off to the side in front of me. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm here to help you and support you. And I'm like, with what? And he said, with that issue you've got with your spouse. Oh, with the divorce. Yeah, the divorce that took almost 2 years and was very difficult. And I said, oh, okay, well, I would appreciate the help. Whatever you need to do or guide me, I'm open to that. And so then I thought about it when I stepped out of that meditation and I thought, qualities of a rooster. Well, let's see. You don't want to get in a fight with them, right? They're pretty severe when they fight. So I'm like, okay, maybe I need to incorporate a little more backbone, a little more of that, not fight or adversarial energy, but just standing up for myself a little bit more during the difficult divorce. And since then, that was about 7 years ago. Since then, that rooster energy slowly drifted away. So I do feel that it's there only when I need it, but it doesn't feel like it's there constantly. I have other spirit animals that are with me more on a regular basis.
Absolutely. I have quite a few that I've had. Cat is one of my main ones. I'm the crazy cat lady. I've been very attached to cats, wolves. My husband and I are both wolves. That's, you can have matching ones with your partners. I have 3 children, my own, that I gave birth to, and each one of my children had a different totem animal while I was pregnant. So for my oldest, it was tigers, white tigers throughout my entire pregnancy with him. It was Winnie the Pooh Tigger. Everything was Tigger. Everything was tigers. I bought figurines. I bought clothing. I bought blanket. Like it was the whole thing. My oldest daughter, it was Piglet from Winnie the Pooh. So everything was pigs. And I mean, everything was pigs for her. With my youngest daughter, it was owls. And I went through this entire phase of owls with her. And I realized that while I was pregnant and me being very, very incorporated with those animals while I was pregnant, that those were my children's spirit animals while I was pregnant. That was them meshing with me. My son and I, with getting the matching tattoos, was the phoenix, what the phoenix represents, right? The phoenix for us represents the struggles that him and I have gone through individually and together that we rose out of. And I couldn't be prouder of my son. He's 19, he's doing amazing, but he did in his mid to late teens go through a very rough transformation period. And in that, he rose out of it to be a wonderful man, wonderful young man. And I couldn't be prouder. And so that was the representation for us. Butterflies, of course, because spirituality and butterflies go almost hand in hand. And that was my first ever tattoo. I have 3. That was my first. But yeah, it's my biggest question as a spiritual teacher that I get asked is how can you tell what your spirit animal is? Now, you made a very good point. There's ones that you've had for majority of your life. There's ones that come and go that are there while you need them. And then there's ones that show up just to bring you a quick message. I remember being outside and looking outside, and all of a sudden I see a deer or a moose in my front yard. Now, not every time is that going to be a message, not every time, but I got this sixth sense, this intuitive feeling, the gut feeling, as you would call, whether you're spiritual or not, the gut feeling that was a message for me that I needed to do. So, of course, I went and got my trusted book and I looked up what it meant. I also, went onto the link that I shared and checked out what that meant for me. And it's not always going to mean the same thing for everybody. So that I'm going to caution everybody. Certain animals, you need to choose what representation or what's the word I'm looking for? I'm having issues with words today.
Symbolism?
Yeah, what symbolism will represent for you, because it's not going to be the same for everybody. There are multiple representations of these animals. Color, gender, size, type, right? You've got like 4 different kinds of bears. So each one is going to mean something different. So when you have been, and this is what I tell my own clients, when you've been drawn to an animal for as long as you can remember, that you've been drawn to an animal or a couple animals, because you can have multiple totems, that animal is most likely one of your totem or spirit animals. That animal is going to help represent you. I've had animals come and go, and even mythical animals. Again, with tattoos. And I'm not promoting tattoos by explaining my tattoos, so please do not think that I am doing that. But I'm getting 2 more tattoos, one on each shoulder. One is a dragon, and one is a Pegasus. One is my protector, one is my guardian. Guardian and insight would be one. So that's what I'm doing, because they represent me. They represent something that, I feel very close to. Animals are truly healing in so many ways. It's not even funny. Well, I guess it technically is.
It's heartwarming. Yeah, it's very heartwarming, I think. Yeah. I've had a case where there was a client who, a husband and wife, and the wife came to one of my classes that were in person before the pandemic. And she said, I want to ask, my husband's going through cancer, and my dog is presenting some of the same symptoms that he has. It's very odd. And, could you talk to my dog and find out why she's picking up on these symptoms? Um, so I did. I spoke with the dog virtually, and the dog was saying that she really loved the family. She loves both the husband and the wife, but she knew the man was going through a difficult time, and she knew he was struggling emotionally, even though he wasn't expressing it. And so she was trying to take some of that burden away from him. So she was energetically taking away some of his symptoms, and they were presenting in her as well. So, we talk about that unconditional love, and there it is. It's not ideal for an animal to do that. And I talk with them about that, and talk about them about some other choices that they could make, because it inevitably will shorten their life if they do absorb some of the symptoms without getting treatments and things like that. So there's other things they can do, and that's what I talk with them about.
Yeah. So to interrupt this mid-program, I would like to say, for anybody watching or catching the replay or even listening to the podcast, please like, follow, share, and subscribe to whatever platform you are on. You can find the show Just Alive TV on every platform. We have an account. Set it up, sign up, subscribe to our newsletter, reach out to me if you have a featured topic or if you'd like to be a guest co-host. And today's sponsor, of course, is the Butterfly Lotus Company. And if you would like to be involved in some spiritual teaching, you are having your awakening, please feel free to join me at www.thebutterflylotuscompany.com. All right. So what do you think, what other things do you think people need to know about animal healing or animal communication that just aren't readily available?
Oh, goodness. I think the general public need to realize that animals have souls, and there is a strong connection, and there's a reason why an animal is in your life. That's one of my first questions that I ask an animal. Why are you with this human right now? What is your journey? What is your path? What is your connection? How are you here to help them, or how are they going to help you? And what are some of the things you guys are going to work on? And so I like finding that information out. And I think, just having people realize that they can make a connection, a heart to heart connection with an animal. It's so empowering to feel this from an animal.
Yeah, absolutely. I have reacted, and I've lost a lot of people in my life. I'm the baby of my families, so I've lost a lot of family members. And out of all of it, I think I've always, and people, you can find me cold-hearted, anybody who's watching, but I will react more to the loss of an animal than I do the loss of a human so far. Obviously, if I lost my husband or my children, I would be absolutely devastated, and I would probably lie in my bed and drug myself until I'm not available. But for the first month anyway. And then obviously I would process, because that's what I do. But animals have always, we had puppies a few years ago, and I planned on keeping one. She didn't look like she was going to make the litter. She was the runt. Wouldn't eat when she was born. I believe we had to rub her to get her back when she was born. And I said, if you eat, and this was probably 6 hours after they were born, and I said, if you eat, I will keep you. Just eat. And within 20 minutes, she was eating. And we ended up keeping her. We named her Miracle, Mira for short. And she was the cutest Rottweiler. She still had her tail, and it was just adorable. At 3 months old, I could walk her down the street without a leash. She wouldn't leave my side. She would follow me throughout the house. She would follow me outside. Unless her sisters got involved, then it was incoherence. But she was unfortunately poisoned at 4.5 months old. And that was a very hard and very traumatizing experience for me and for her. And I was devastated. It took me a very long time to even talk about her, or I had my profile picture on Facebook of her for almost 2 years because I couldn't change it.
Yeah.
And it was not fun.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But it's meant, and I don't want to say it's meant to be, but everything does happen for a reason. And I do know that there were 2 people in the vicinity that probably facilitated her passing. And I don't think she was necessarily the target. I think her parents were.
Mm.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But like I said at the beginning, losing an animal there is that connection. It's like, I don't want to say like losing a child, because losing a child is horrendous, but it's like losing anybody that you care about, that you love, that's a part of your family, and you've created and facilitated a relationship with. You think animals, you're spending anywhere from on average 8 to 20 years with this animal. They grow up with you and it's you create a lifetime for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. And they're there for you. They show up for the most part. I mean, everyone has a different personality. Every animal has a different personality, but for the most part, they show up, and they they're by your side with so many different things, as you said, going through life experiences, going through ups and downs. Their life ups and downs and our life ups and downs are what brings us together.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep looking at him. That's Pat, and I call him my card reading cat. When I used to do Facebook Lives, and I would do readings for people on Facebook, and he would always be there. If I was doing a reading, he would be there. He'd be in my lap. He'd be on my desk in front of the camera. He's always got to be in there. When I'm doing anything spiritual, that cat is involved. There's no question about it. But what about familiars? What do you think about the term familiars?
I'm not familiar with it.
So they say that a familiar is like a soulmate, but an animal, right? It's like your guardian. What's the other word? Did you ever watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Salem was her familiar. Yeah. Okay. So basically a witch and a cat.
Yeah.
Right. I have one of those, and the connection I feel to my animals is amazing. I love all of my animals, mm-hmm. but the connection I have with this one cat is phenomenal. I can't even explain how much I love this animal and how much healing she's helped me with over the last 13 years.
Yeah, that's that soul connection I was talking about. Souls incarnate to help and support one another, or to teach one another along our life's journey. And sometimes they come back a couple of times. I've had a few cases where animals have returned to their same humans as different animals, sometimes different species, but sometimes the same breed or the same type of animal. And it's, they're like telling me their name, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but let me pass this on to the human. And so I share the name with the human, and the human's like, oh my gosh, that was our dog 20 years ago. Are you telling me the dog we have now is the reincarnated version of that? And I'm like, yeah, that's the name. I didn't know the name. I didn't make it up. I don't know. And so they were like, oh my gosh, their qualities are really, really similar. And, come to think about it, they were really easy to understand the house rules. And, this was an elderly couple, so they'd been through many, many different dogs. So it's amazing and it's so heartwarming to know and to feel that, yeah, we have soulmates and other species that are here to incarnate and support us in our journey, and we can support them as well.
So let's go off the ball here. So I believe in multiple past lives. That's me as a spiritual teacher. That's I'm a past I've actually been trained in past life regression. So I've accessed some of my own past lives. And I swear, no, not that I'm not going to swear, because I believe I have had a lifetime as a cat. Like I have no doubt in my mind that I've experienced a lifetime as a cat, because I connect with them on a different level. My mannerisms as a human are similar to a cat.
One of
I
the
eat
most
when I want, I eat when I want,
yeah,
sleep whenever I want.
definitely. Yeah. And they're in your totem as well. But yeah, definitely. And when I say we've incarnated with animals in other lifetimes, we haven't always been human and they haven't always been an animal. Sometimes they are human and sometimes we are animal. And or vice versa, or sometimes we're the same species. I don't believe in a hierarchy of incarnations that, some people say the animals are higher than us. Some people say the humans are higher than the animals. I don't believe in that. I think it's all a circle. I think it's just a beautiful circle. But yes, definitely, that's certainly a possibility. One of the past life regressions that I did was to see little snippets of me as different animals, other lifetimes where I have incarnated as animals. That was a very trippy experience. I just got to tell you, when you feel like you don't have appendages anymore, or you feel like you have a fin, or if you feel like you have wings, I really, I can't recommend that enough. It's just very incredibly empowering to know that, wow, I was something other than human.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I definitely think that I've been a bird at one point, because I the sensation of flying. Of course, I'm slightly afraid of heights now. I'll chalk that up to dying at some point because of heights, but we know past life trauma does like to come forward. So yeah. What is there anything else you'd like to share about animal healing?
Oh gosh,
Sorry, that's
there's
my
there's just
decides she's gonna open my door. Sorry.
there's so much. Boy, I could talk for hours, but I do shamanic work with animals. I do soul retrieval work to help, especially the rescued animals or those who have abandonment issues. Um, some of what I do is yes, the animal communication is me conversing with them, but you can also do healings for animals. If any of your listeners are Reikis, or they do theta healing, or they do any of the other wonderful modalities that are out there, including shamanism, I invite them to do some of the things for their animals, because they're going through the physical experience here on earth. They also have souls, they have emotions, they have energy bodies. Help them. And so many of the practitioners that I work with and that I teach, they're like, oh, I never thought that I should be able to do this sort of healing on my animals. And I'm like, yes, please do it. They need it as well. And some
Absolutely.
animals are accepting of it and some are not. So you have to honor that, and certainly pay attention to the vibration that you're getting from the animal while you're trying to do a healing or a rebalancing for them. And honor their wishes. If they don't want to receive, honor that. If they do want to receive, honor that. So yeah, there's just so many things we can do to help our animals and to support them.
I love the honoring the wishes. I watched, what was it? I can't remember where I watched it, but I watched an episode of a show where, sorry, here's my spirit cat. I watched an episode of a show where the trainer actually said to the couple, when you walk into a house, ask permission to pet your animal. they might not want you to touch them. They might be relaxing and just want you to leave them alone.
Right.
You need to respect their boundaries, their
Absolutely.
process. I loved
Yeah.
that. Another one is chiropractic.
Hmm.
There's animal chiropractors, animal adjustments, animal acupuncture. There's so many different, like you said, healing modalities that can be geared towards animals.
Yes. Yeah,
And
most definitely.
people just don't think that.
Yeah. And massage as well. My animals get massage and chiropractic and acupuncture as needed. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just making sure we don't knock things over.
Does someone have a message? What is her name?
You were talking about me, Mom.
Yeah.
You were talking about me.
Yeah. What is her name?
This is Mao.
Mal.
So she
Okay.
doesn't meow. She doesn't meow like a normal cat.
Yeah.
I can't make the noise. My husband makes the noise, but I can't make the noise.
Yeah.
It's between like a purr and a meow, and I call it a haru.
Aw.
It sounds weird. So we named her Mao because she doesn't meow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
A little weirdo, but
Yeah.
she's
No,
actually
I
the
mean,
smallest cat in the house and the oldest.
hmm yeah,
She's my
she's got a deep soul connection with you, like you said. She's feeling very loving and very maternal towards you. It feels like she's probably been your mother before.
I think I had a cat when I was about 12. I had a cat. I'm 38 now, so 16 years ago. No, 26 years ago. Ooh, that hurt to say. I had a cat at 12 and her name was Boo Boo. And she was my 12-year-old birthday present. She hated me. I traumatized her. I terrorized her. I totally terrorized her. I held her when she didn't want to. I made her fight with me, like get all scratchy and growly, and I terrorized her. And I'm not proud of that, but that was a stage in my life. We're not going to go there. We ended up having to give her away because of something going on in the family. And I'm still pissed off about that. And now I kind of get the feeling that she's connected to that cat, that those two are in the same family, if not the same cat. That's what I get the feeling of. But yeah, that's her.
Very good.
All right. Well, again, I think animal healing, not only healing us but also healing themselves, is definitely underrated, and not a lot of people take the time or the effort to understand that their animals are unique individual souls that deserve respect, understanding, and health.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, again, do you have any last parting messages for this episode before we sign off for the day?
No, I think, if everyone were just to have a stronger connection with their animals, I think that makes the world a better place. And, don't think you're crazy if you're getting some messages or vibes or feelings from an animal if it's coming out from nowhere. I mean, that's how communicators start, is they get these messages or these feelings or sensations in their body that come out from nowhere. So you're not crazy. You're probably just picking up on the vibration of one of your beloved animals.
Absolutely. A lot of, and it is. It doesn't matter what form of spirituality or whether you're spiritual or not, you do get to a point where you're like, what's going on here? Do I know
Yeah.
what's happening? Am I going
Yeah.
crazy? I want to say probably a fairly high percentage of us who are spiritually gifted and acknowledge the spiritual gifts had moments of feeling like they didn't know who they were. They didn't understand what those feelings were, how to utilize them, or even just say, hey, it took me years before I could say I'm a psychic intuitive medium, healer, and empath. Like, it took me a long time to be able to say that to people. So don't think you're alone when feeling overwhelmed and a little bit nervous about what's going on. All right. Well, just a family, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode with my co-host, Linda Roberts. If you would like to connect with Linda, you can do so in the comments. If you would like to connect with the show, you can also do that in the comments. A big thank you to our sponsor, the Butterfly Lotus Company, spiritual teaching at its finest, helping you heal one product, course, service at a time. So if you would like to connect with myself, with Linda, or the company, please do so. Link in the descriptions. Like, follow, share, all of that fun stuff. Linda, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed this episode. And thank you again.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here. Have a great day.
You too. All right, just a family. Lots of love, and I will see you on the next